You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. Today we're going to have kind of a mixed bag of topics. We're going to catch you up a bit on what's going on with the DC TV series. And I don't mean the Arrowverse. I mean shows that are on like HBO Max. And we're going to talk about some rather interesting little characters that are going to pop up in She-Hulk that haven't been talked about yet. And then we're going to do a deep dive into a character that we just yesterday learned is joining the MCU. So stick around. Let's have some fun. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It is Tuesday, August 9th. Sure, it's August 9th. Tomorrow is New Comic Book Day, and if you read social media, everybody is talking about one of three things. The Sandman TV show, the movie Prey, or what the hell's going on with Ezra Miller. We're not going to talk about any of those things. Haven't seen the first two things. And I'm at a point now where I don't care about Ezra Miller. Just do something, you know? He stole alcohol from somebody's house. That's the latest. Okay. Whatever. Just done. I'm just tired of him being in the news. You know? I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but I am ready to move on from Ezra Miller, and a little tired of my entertainment being seasoned with people's stupidity. So we're just going to focus on the positive, the good stuff. Now, we've been talking a lot about Warner Brothers and Warner Bros. Discovery, and they're canceling Batgirl. And what are they doing over here? What are they doing over there? Lots of conversations. I put up a thing on my Facebook page saying, don't be surprised if the Kevin Feige type that that DC finds will be one of the producers over at Marvel. Nate Moore, Stephen Broussard, Brad Windebaum. There's a handful of them that are all very well experienced and growing up in Marvel Studios in the same way that Kevin Feige grew up with Marvel movies like Spider-Man and the X-Men and stuff like that. So my point being that they need a producer type, or they're going to find a producer type who knows comics and can do the overall job. Where a lot of names I see out there, people yelling out are, oh, let's bring back Zack Snyder. No, that's not going to happen. Let's go with Jeff Johns. Well, Jeff Johns is already at DC, is part of the movie hierarchy. And if they were going to use him, I don't think they would go out and get Alan Horn to come in to find the Kevin Feige type. One name that came up that I hadn't thought of that I really like was actually suggested by Howard Chaykin, and that is Reggie Hudlin. So that I like that idea a lot. He's another one that has that producing background, which is what I think is key. Now, so Hudlin, I think one of the guys from Marvel would be good. I don't think Jeff Johns is a bad idea, but I think he's already been there and done that, and they're moving on from him. I mean, in a lot of ways, Jeff Johns is similar in that Kevin Feige started working for Richard Donner, so did Jeff Johns. So their starting points are very similar. But I think he and Walter Hamada are kind of tied too much to the old regime, and Discovery seems to be wanting to go a new direction. Speaking of new directions and stuff like that, and what Discovery is doing, Variety? No, it's TV Line has put up a article by Matt Mitzovich that kind of catches us up on all of the series that are on HBO Max. So we know that The Flash over on CW is coming to an end. They're pulled the plug on Gotham Knights, which I'm not sure how that ever got started. So soon there's only going to be a handful of shows left. None of them are really tied to the Arrowverse. Arrowverse is coming to an end. Okay. But there's still some shows on HBO Max, some in production, some already on the air, looking at second and third seasons and whatnot. So TV Line gives us an update, at least on where they hear these series are. One of the things we've been hearing is that the Green Lantern series that was in the works from Greg Berlanti and Mark Guggenheim was dead. They've been everybody's saying, "Oh no, it's dead. It's not going to happen." TV Line says, "Not so fast." That is actually still in production. According to their sources, it is definitely moving forward. Most likely to bow in 2024. And that's still going to have Finn Wittrock as Alan Scott, Jeremy Irvin as Guy Gardner, and it's going to look at different eras of the Green Lantern Corps. So, you've got Alan Scott as a secretly gay FBI agent in the 1940s, or you've got Guy Gardner in 1984. So it's going to take different eras, and they're going to introduce other Green Lanterns as well. So that is supposed to still be moving forward, which is great. I'd love to see them kind of reboot it, get things going with Green Lantern, and let us all forget about the Ryan Reynolds movie, which I didn't hate, but it definitely needed some help. I will tell you, though, that I got a chance to read the first draft of the Green Lantern movie prior to the one that they actually used to make the movie. And the movie is so much better than the first draft script, I got to tell you. There is a scene, I probably shouldn't even mention it, but yeah, the ending scene in the first draft is so bad that if you knew it existed and then you went and saw the movie, you would just be happy that scene wasn't in it. It was that bad of a scene, that cringy of a scene, and breaks every bit of Green Lantern continuity we know. So I saw the movie and I was happy that scene didn't exist. So, mind you, I've also read the Green Arrow movie script, the Supermax. That should have been made. That was brilliant. I really liked that script. All right, so going on with the Warner Brothers TV show, Warner Discovery DC shows. Harley Quinn. Now, season 3 of Harley Quinn just started. People are loving it. And word is that a season 4 is a pretty safe bet. So, even with the topics going on in there and stuff like that, there's a good chance we're going to get more. Teen Titans. That season 4 is currently filming, and people are really liking how it's looking. So we should be seeing that relatively soon. And that's going to add Joseph Morgan to the cast from the originals. So Titans is still moving forward. Doom Patrol. The season 4 is in the works. That got ordered back in October, and there is the upcoming spin-off, The Dead Boy Detectives. So that's still moving forward as well. Nothing, no bad news on the Doom Patrol front, and I do like the Doom Patrol series, and I like the Titan series. Both of them are a lot of fun. James Gunn has assured everybody Peacemaker's fine. There's going to be more Peacemaker, and that the other Suicide Squad spinoff series he's working on is supposed to be moving forward as well. So a little more obscure Warner Brothers series, Pennyworth, which I covered here, having found it basically after the fact when it jumped over to HBO Max from Epix when they'd announced the third season. Well, the third season is currently in the can and will be out later this fall. So will there be a fourth season? I'm thinking this will be wrap it up, but that's more because of the season of the series, not so much because of the actual of Warner Brothers. I think 3 is going to be all we're going to get out of this series. If you haven't watched it, it's a lot like watching a younger version of Michael Caine as Alfred. The guy that's that plays Pennyworth, that plays Alfred, is just fantastic, and he is a young Michael Caine. So, but the end, each season has ended in such a way that you're going, wait, what did just happen? How is this going to go forward? And then we get another adventure. So we'll see. Now, on the bad news side, there was back in October when the Green Lantern series was announced, they also announced a series called Strange Adventures that would be more of a closed-end morality tale story, mixing mortals and superhumans together. And Adam Strange would be kind of a connective tissue in it. Well, Kevin Smith was on board writing part of that. And on his podcast the other night, he said that that's done. No Strange Adventures is coming. So you can go ahead and just take that one off the list. Let's see. Yeah, Mark. I'm here I'm about 20 miles outside of Los Angeles. More precisely, I am right near where the mall scene, DeLorean scene in Back to the Future was filmed. So the actual mall that was used as the Twin Pine Mall is the mall I grew up with, and I still live close by. So, but I wonder why Cleveland, Tennessee, or Houston. Interesting choices. Okay. So that really kind of covers what's going on with Warner Brothers. There's other news going on. There's a word that Warner Brothers is reaching out to Henry Cavill to try to get him back as Superman. Some reports say that he came back and said, no, it's already, I'm done. But that doesn't sound right. He seems too attached to the character. So I think we should wait on that. That's more just rumors. But that's what's going on with Warner Brothers as of today, since last week. We're going to have to see if there's also some talk that they may move some of the movies around. Shazam may come off of its December release because it'll be opening up opposite of Avatar, so they're worried about that. It may move to February, in which case Aquaman might move and just bump everything. We're going to have to see. But, all right, let's go ahead. That's caught us up on Warner Brothers. We'll talk the rest of the stuff as soon as we come back from our first break. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning into The Experience. Help us out and hit subscribe over on YouTube and click the bell when you do. Need some help? Scan the QR code in the bottom corner. Who would win, Batman or Superman? It's the age-old debate, except it's so much more complicated than that. Nerd Killer Warfare every week on The Experience is your chance to debate other nerds in the questions we've all been asking for years, except we take those debates and turn them up to 11. Go to bit.ly/EXP casting or scan the QR code to be part of the show.
Hey, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. Edward, Henry Cavill is wonderful in The Witcher. They are doing a third season. I believe it's close to wrapping production. They've been working on it for a while now. Also, there's going to be a prequel series where there was an animated movie, but there's going to be a prequel series, and I missed a news story, it's going to star Jason Momoa. So he'll be like one of the earlier Witchers. So there's quite a bit more Witcher stuff coming in the near future. So stay tuned for that. Whenever I take a break, what I do is I hop over and I look at some of the other news sites just because I want to make sure I'm up to date. And I literally just saw a news story that said, Miss Marvel directors say that Lockjaw needs to be part of the character's future if there's a second season, and that they assure that the Lockjaw will show up in some way if there is a second season of Miss Marvel. And I'm thinking, yeah, those guys were also pretty much sure that they were putting out a Batgirl movie. So, yeah. Too soon? Same guys. Why don't they get Brendan Fraser to play Lockjaw? It'd be kind of cool. Lockjaw doesn't talk, though. That would suck. You know, Lockjaw is not a dog, right? He's another inhuman. That means he went through the Terrigen Mist. Thank you, Jeff. Never too soon. Mark says, I'm watching from Woodstock, Georgia. Glad you reminded me that Titans is on tonight at 10 on TNT. There you go. Yeah, I really liked the Titans show. What's funny is when I first started watching it, the characters that I liked the most were Hawk and Dove. I thought that was really cool. And now I get to watch Alan Richardson as Jack Reacher, so that's kind of cool too. Let's see. JD says, do you think they'll ever revisit Inhumans on Disney Plus? I think we will get some form of redemption for the Inhumans. I mean, we got Ensign Mountain showing up as Black Bolt in Doctor Strange. So, but they did turn Kamala into a mutant in her series. Now, I know that originally when they created Kamala, they wanted to make her a mutant, but there was a mandate in the comics not to create any more X-Men because Fox owned the rights to the X-Men, and anybody they created in the comics would then just become potential film rights for Fox, and they didn't want to do that. So there was a few characters, and I know Miss Kamala was one of them. Kamala Khan was one of them. I'm trying to remember. There was another one I specifically remember them saying, but now the name slips. That was going to be a mutant, and they ended up making it an Inhuman. But yeah, so that's. I think we will get to the Inhumans, but it'll probably be more focused on the royal family. Black Bolt's a great character. If they do it, then I don't think they'll make the mistake of shaving Medusa's head within the second episode. So you take away that power that you have to CGI through the entire thing. That should have been the warning sign right there to just tap out on the series. But Ensign Mount was really good as Black Bolt. I cannot remember the actor, but the guy playing Maximus was good. Saranda Swan wasn't bad as Medusa. They just got rid of her hair, and it's like, why would you do that? You know? But the cast wasn't bad. It just, the writing was horrible. So, yeah, I think they might come back around on the Inhumans. I don't think it'll be soon. I mean, we already got a bunch of things in the works, so. Yes, Ewan Rowan was Maximus. Jay, it was originally on the slate to be a movie, right? It was, but it was. There was this point where it was before Kevin Feige took over everything. And Ike Perlmutter over at Marvel was pushing against Kevin and trying to force things to happen. And Ike wanted an Inhumans movie, and he forced it. And when Kevin got more power, then it got rolled into a TV series because Ike still controlled Marvel Television. It wasn't until Kevin took over everything that, you know, but yeah, it was a forced thing from Ike Perlmutter in the comic side to put the Inhumans out there. So that's why there wasn't the big push. That's why when things changed, the movie disappeared. Because if you notice, very few Marvel movies and projects, once they're announced, fade away. And yep, that's just happens to be one of them. So, all right, speaking of Marvel projects, I have been seeing more and more clips and trailers for She-Hulk, which debuts next week. And remember, it's debuting on the 18th, the Thursday, not the Wednesday. So even though the new Groot animated shorts debut tonight, tomorrow morning, whichever it is for you, She-Hulk won't debut until midnight Wednesday / Thursday, the 18th, because that's going to be its new night. Now, I don't know if that means all the stuff will move there, if it's just She-Hulk. They're really not they're just kind of doing it as they go and then not explaining, which always bugs me, but I'm hoping that eventually there's a Star Wars night and there's a Marvel night. So all Marvel stuff is dropped on this night, all Star Wars stuff is dropped on this night, and that's going to make it much better when you have both Andor and She-Hulk running at the same time, or back when we had Obi-Wan Kenobi and Miss Marvel. So, well, watching the She-Hulk trailers, I've noticed that there's that, I guess it's a therapy group session. She talks about how, you know, you have that one friend who's super sexy and gets all the attention, and then she kind of goes, well, that turns out that is a group of powered individuals in a therapy session, and it's being run by Emil Blonsky, which kind of goes opposite of seeing him in this solitary confinement cage because he turns into Abomination. Now, maybe this is continuation. Maybe in the beginning we see him in the cage, and Jen is able to actually get him to where he's out of the solitary confinement, you know, and he's doing his yoga stuff. Because when we first see him, he's like, namaste. And he's, like I said, he's running this group. But what's interesting is when you get a look at the group, there are some really obscure Marvel villains in that group. If you watch closely the trailer, when we actually see Blonsky in the group session, we also see a guy in this very big, I don't want to say padded, but it's like a straw suit. And I'm pretty sure he's the Porcupine, which is this super obscure character. Then we also get two Daredevil villains, Man-Bull and the Matador. And it looks like there's another villain with silver bracelets up his arm. I can't place who that is, but I find it interesting that they're bringing in these really obscure villains. These were villains that were like one or two appearances, and that's it. Or if you look them up, you're like, I think I remember seeing him once. Maybe. But, you know, you don't know what his alias is, anything like that. Well, that's what we're using here, that we're getting here. And, but the fact that they're using two Daredevil villains, and I think Porcupine fought Daredevil. I also remember him fighting Captain America. But the fact that we get two Daredevil villains, maybe that's part of what the crossover's about. Maybe the fact that Daredevil shows up, it's because of those guys. You know? I mean, I just think we're seeing a lot of stuff in these trailers and these clips, and it's going to be interesting to see how they all tie together. So, Edward asks, do you think they'll bring Howard the Duck into She-Hulk or anywhere in the MCU for that matter? That is an excellent question, because She-Hulk and Howard the Duck do cross over in the comics, and they both have that kind of fourth wall breaking style. And we do have Howard the Duck established in the MCU. And if you watch Avengers Endgame, he's part of the group that comes to fight Thanos. So conceivably, he might have been able to hide when they were sending everybody home, and he might now be on Earth. I don't see a problem with that. Do I think they're going to introduce him in season 1? I'm going to say no. Because they've already got quite a few cameos lined up. You know, Wong, Hulk, Abomination, Daredevil, and then you're introducing all these other little villains and stuff. And it's only 9 episodes, and the episodes are all right around 30 minutes, some shorter, some a little longer. So there's not a lot of airtime. So I don't think we're going to get too many more cameos than what's already listed, but I think it's a possibility, and he would make a great character for season 2 if they did a second season. Yeah, I could. I could easily see him joining the show. And I don't think it would be hard to get Seth Green to voice him again. So it is possible he'll show up in season 1. I'm more likely thinking he would show up in season 2. Jay says, Edward, other than little cameos, I don't know. I wish they would. Apparently, there was a plan that had a Howard the Duck cartoon. Yeah, there was a Howard the Duck cartoon series in talks over at Hulu, along with a Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider series. But all of that was Marvel Television and went away when Kevin Feige took over. Jay says, I love in the trailer when she realized she has powers to break the fourth wall. Yeah. Edward says, I just hope they improve the CG from what we've seen in the trailer. She-Hulk looks cartoonish like Banner's Hulk, and I'm hoping they surprise us in the actual show. I think that they've probably been working on the CG all the time, and they're going to be working on it until the show airs. You know, Marvel's not the type to just go, oh, that's done, let's move on. They're more the type of how can we improve? Because we've seen it in a bunch of things where they're making changes at the last minute. So there are some scenes I look at her and she looks great, and there are some that I look at and I'm like, damn, that looks a little awkward. But maybe we'll get used to it and maybe it'll improve. I'm hoping it does too. I'm hoping it's seamless in the sense that once you start watching it, you get into it and you don't think about it. That's the perfect thing. Mark says that I have a Marvel encyclopedia beside me, and it says Porcupine worked with the Thunderbolts. All right. Excellent. See? That's good information. Thank you, Mark. Porcupine, I remember Porcupine in reading about him a few times in comics. And there are other really obscure Marvel villains they could pull. I mean, the Armadillo is out there, and D-Man, and there's some great stuff out there they could pull for this type of show. So I love that they're doing that. Edward says, it's true that the entire Spider-Man piece of Civil War was added later because of the Sony issue, or is that just a rumor? It was a late addition to filming, but they did film it. It wasn't in the initial script because Sony agreed to it, but they did agree to it before principal photography was too far underway. So they were able to add him to the story and get him into the fight scenes and stuff and do the scenes with Tony and Aunt May and stuff. But it was a last minute thing. Yeah, that's like I said, the whole thing with the Marvel is they are willing to make changes at the last minute because if it's going to improve the thing. The best example, and I've given this one before, is the shawarma scene at the end of the Avengers movie. It was an idea they came up with right before the premiere, and they filmed it the night of the premiere because that was the only time they were all going to have all the actors together. And it's also why Cap sits there like this through the entire thing, is because he had grown a beard for Snowpiercer, and they weren't going to be able to shave it off or anything to do the scene. So they put a prosthetic on him and then had him put his hand there so it didn't look too bad. But yeah, that was filmed to the last minute. It didn't go into all the cuts. If you were anywhere outside of the United States, you didn't get the shawarma scene because they could only get it added to the movies in the U.S. So, yeah. But that's the kind of stuff they do. Hey, Mark Picus. Hi, all. Peace from L.A. When you say LA, do you mean Los Angeles or Louisiana? Edward says, that's my favorite credit scene of the entire MCU. They don't say a word, but it's hilarious. Yep. Yeah. Sometimes the funny post-credit scenes are the best. You know, they're just that relief moment or that little last chuckle before you walk out of the theater. I don't necessarily want the, boom, boom, boom moment. I want little levity. I saw somebody post yesterday that they really want horror movies to show blooper reels during the end credits to kind of decompress before you go back out into the real world. That's kind of an interesting idea. No, Mark, we are not doing the Sandman conversation today. I want to give people a little more chance, and we're going to do it slowly. So on Thursday, we're going to talk about a handful of episodes. We're not going to do the whole thing at once. We're going to break it down so that everybody can keep track. But so tomorrow we'll talk about any other news plus Only Murders in the Building. And then Thursday, we will talk about Sandman. So join us on Thursday for Sandman. Plus, I still have to watch it. Edwards, what's your favorite Stan Lee cameo? Mine is The Amazing Spider-Man when he's a librarian. That's a really good one. I kind of like him as the security guard in Winter Soldier, which is him going, "What? They're going to fire me when the costume gets stolen. Kyle won't be here Thursday." Yes, exactly. No, we'll probably do Sandman the following Tuesday, more episodes, but I want to give more people a chance to watch it. So we will get Kyle in on it. He just won't be part of the very first discussion. So, all right, we are going to talk about another thing that popped up yesterday. Set photos from the filming of Ironheart have hit the web. And while avoiding spoilers, an actor who we knew had been cast appeared in costume. Now, Dominic Thorne appears in the Ironheart suit of armor, and it's pretty badass looking, I got to tell you. It's much bigger and bulkier than I would have expected, but it's pretty cool looking from what I've seen on the pictures. But the other character that we saw is the Hood. Now, if you're not familiar with the Hood, I'm going to give you a deep dive into the character. That's kind of what we're going to do with the rest of the show. But the Hood, it was a pretty interesting character when he debuted, in that he debuted in his own series, and he's a supervillain. He was written by Brian K. Vaughan, drawn by Kyle Hotz, and this was in May of 2002, his own title, The Hood, #1. And he's been popping up a lot over the last 2 decades since he premiered. I highly suggest Marvel Max The Hood, Blood from Stones. Okay. Good reading suggestion. Now, we know that he's going to appear in Ironheart, and he's going to be played by Anthony Ramos. Now, Ironheart is going to star Dominic Thorne as the title character, and we know that it's going to have Manny Montana, Lyric Ross, Anthony Ramos, and Alden Ehrenreich. Yes, the guy that played Solo. But up until yesterday, we didn't know any of their roles other than Dominic Thorne, who's going to first debut in Wakanda Forever. Well, now that we've seen Ramos in the Hood, then so we can kind of look at it that way. If you're not familiar with Ramos, he's done a lot of interesting things. I mean, he was in Godzilla, King of the Monsters. He was in A Star is Born. He was in the movie Honest Thief. But more people probably recognize him for his dual role in Hamilton. He was one of the original cast members. Or he also played Usnavi in the Heights, which came out just a couple of years back too. In Hamilton, of course, he played Philip Hamilton, the son of Alexander, and the guy that kind of gets him shot. But Yeah. So now very little is known about the plot of Ironheart. Ramos's role as the Hood is kind of a surprise because they really don't interact any in comics. There's not any big story where, the Hood is Ironheart's arch enemy or they appear together in something. Mark, we are talking about Parker Robbins, the Marvel villain, and I'm going to go take a deep dive into the character right now. Parker Robbins was a child who witnessed Daredevil fighting Electro. And from that, he became obsessed with becoming a supervillain, which I think is kind of interesting because, most people would look at the hero. I want to be like Daredevil. Nope. He wanted to be like Electro. And that's probably because his mom was in constant need of medical attention. So this forced him to drop out of high school and he started stealing money to pay for her care. Now, he did some work with his cousin John. And at one night, John came up with this job where they were going to hit this local warehouse that was supposed to have some great stuff that they'd be able to sell. Well, the problem is that when they break into the place, all they find is evidence of an aborted seance. And then when they try to leave, they're attacked by a demon in this red cloak. Now, Parker is quick and pulls his gun and shoots the demon, and he believes he's killed him. But he doesn't want the night to be a total waste, so he steals the cloak and the boots off the demon, which is very video game-ish. Well, I've killed you, I'm going to loot you now. Oh, look, I get a new cloak and some new boots. And it turns out they're magical cloak and boots. Because later on he would discover that the boots allow him to basically walk or run on air, while the cloak gives him various magical abilities. Now, what we don't find out for a long time is that the cloak was created by, and the powers come from, Dormammu. Plus 10 magical skills, yes. So this guy has now got a connection to Dormammu. And again, that's kind of interesting because Ironheart looks like a tech series, and they're going to give her a magical villain. Now, his first adventure with this new paraphernalia, well, he decided to try to steal a shipment of diamonds. But this was a shipment of diamonds. Always wanted the Hood crossover with the Cape, the short-lived NBC series. Yeah, I remember the Cape. It was okay, but it wasn't that good. So he goes to steal this shipment of diamonds, but the diamonds are being imported illegally by a crime boss. And the crime boss, of course, doesn't want his stuff stolen. So he hires some villains to protect it. He hires Constrictor, Jack-O-Lantern, and the Shocker. Now, Parker, with this new paraphernalia, is actually able to defeat the trio. But while doing so, he accidentally murders a police officer in the process. Now, during this, he gets called the Hood. That's where he gets his name. And he becomes a wanted man. Now, this leads to other things happening, including him being attacked by a fake group of AIM agents. Now, I'm not sure why there's a fake group of AIM agents, but it's a fake group. And when they attack him, they end up forcing him to release this demon that now lived inside of it. The one that he thought he killed. Nope, turns out now inside of him. And it's part of the magic of the Hood. Well, he was able to con the police into shooting the demon, thinking that it's who killed the cop, and getting himself off of being wanted for murder. He's still a bad guy, but he's conned his way out of being, really, really wanted. Now, he's popped up in a lot of the big series that came out. He showed up in Battle World, where he was taken along with Spider-Man, Venom, Gravity, Medusa, Hank Pym, the Wasp, Kraven, and Firebird. They were all taken to this one battle world, and they were forced to figure out why they were there. And in doing so, they discovered the battle world was falling apart. Well, the character of Gravity, who, I think his powers are pretty obvious, he sacrificed himself holding the battle world together long enough for everyone to escape. Well, back on Earth, after all this, Parker feels bad about it, and they have a funeral for Gravity, and Parker goes. So there are moments and threads where you start going, okay, maybe he's not completely bad, but then he does horrible things too. So it's kind of a mix. Now, during the Superhero Registration Act and the resulting Civil War, Robbins decides, hey, everybody's distracted, and he starts putting together his own little organization of super criminals to kind of take over all the organized crime. Well, of course, he's not the only one trying to do this. The Owl is doing it at the same time, and he kills the Owl, which is one of the things that gets the other criminals to respect him. The other is he takes out Tigra for Jigsaw. So, he gets a pretty good rep and builds a pretty good organization. He gets a hold of Deathlock and uses him in a $15 million heist where Deathlock actually gets destroyed. But this, of course, drew the attention of the New Avengers and Doctor Strange, and they come along and, of course, defeat Robin's organization. But during the fight, he kind of realizes more about his powers and starts to figure out what he needs to do to be able to defeat the heroes. But before he gets the chance to enact that, this other little thing happens called Secret Invasion. And the Skrulls, of course, are trying to infiltrate the Hood's organization. And the first one they tried to infiltrate or impersonate is Madame Mask. Now, eventually there's some romance going on between the Hood and Madame Mask, but at this point it's not quite there yet. But Robbins figures out that it's not Madame Mask, and he rescues her. Then he uses his abilities. And again, his abilities are magical, so they're kind of, what do we need him to do right now? So they change a lot. Well, he scans his crew and discovers there's a Skrull posing as a villain called the Slug. So the Hood shoots and kills him immediately. Just this is the same time that he finally figures out the source of his magic, which is Dormammu, which doesn't seem to bother him all that much. Now, Robin's scene as all these Skrulls are taking over kind of decides that the Skrulls taking over the world may not be good for business. So he and his organization, along with Electro, Lightmaster, Masked Marauder, Scorcher, and a handful of minor level heroes, go into Central Park and take on a Skrull invasion force and defeat them. And then once the battle's over, the villains just kind of went, all right, we got to go. And then they fade back into the shadows. So on that round, he turned out to be a hero. So like I said, he kind of flips back and forth. He was involved in Dark Reign. Norman Osborn brought him in. At one point, his group was to stop the New Avengers from returning, and all he had to do was delay them, and they delayed them pretty well, but they were eventually defeated. At another point, the Punisher tries to assassinate Osborn, so it fails, but Norman decides to send the Hood to hunt down Frank Castle, and again, powers being whatever they need to be, he decides he's going to raise all of the villains that were killed by the guy known as the Scourge of the Underworld. And while I could list those, there's 16 of them, and half of them you're never going to have heard of, and they die right after. So, yeah. 16 long dead villains are brought back to go after the Punisher. So, and then just all this kind of weird stuff happens to this guy. At one point, Dormammu increases his magic, when there's a race to see who the new Sorcerer Supreme is going to be. He's sent to go after Doctor Strange, but almost kills Doctor Strange, except for Wickline gets involved and stops it. He also has to fight Damian Hellstrom and Brother Voodoo, both who are also candidates for the new Sorcerer Supreme. And, of course, Voodoo's the one who becomes it for a while. During the siege, Loki gives his organization these Norn stones to empower them so they could cause more havoc. But then halfway through, he went, I'm going to need those Norn stones back because I need the heroes to actually beat the Void because the siege of Asgard's happening. So yeah, the Hood just keeps popping up in all these weird places. At one point, he went on a quest to get the Infinity Gauntlet and all the stones. He takes on like all of the Avengers and the Red Hulk and Namor, Professor X, all in an effort to get these stones or the gems. And it's kind of interesting because once he gets one of them, they allow him to teleport to the next, to the next, to the next, because the time gems or the Infinity Gems want to be reunited. Well, that power is what ends up working against him, because when he starts losing a couple, Iron Man actually gets them, puts them in the Infinity Gauntlet, and uses that to retrieve the rest of the gems. So that's how he gets defeated, even though he has some of the Infinity Gems. Edward says, for the most part, hasn't the MCU played out that the Skrulls are kind of the good guys? That being said, it makes me wonder how they're going to do Secret Wars. Yeah, that was a big twist in Captain Marvel, that the Skrulls are good guys. I think we're going to see that may not be the case. That there's good and bad in them. Because otherwise, Secret Wars doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, there has to be an evil sect. So we'll see how that works out. Robbins, of course, tried to put his organization back together after failing to get the Infinity Stones. He tried to put his group back together and tried to convince a bunch of villains that they're going to go against S.H.I.E.L.D., but they'll go after the S.H.I.E.L.D.'s family members. And Titania, who's going to be in the She-Hulk series, pulled him aside and said, no, we don't do that. They ended up fighting. Titania kicked his ass and destroyed his cloak, basically taking away all his powers. For a while. Because it just kind of, yeah. You're getting the idea here that the Hood has done a lot of things. They're all over the place. The most recent time he popped up, he was in the Hawkeye Freefall series, but he was just in the Mary Jane and Black Cat series called Beyond #1. So he's trying to reestablish his empire again, and that was just a couple months back. So the Hood is still active. He pops up all the time. But how does a mystic level crime boss fit into a series about a genius inventor in an armored suit? I've got no idea. It seems like a strange match. Now, I can see the Hood as a Doctor Strange villain or a Moon Knight villain, maybe even Loki, but Ironheart seems like a stretch unless they're going to downplay the mystical aspects and just make him a criminal with boots that let him walk on air and a cape that does some simple things. I mean, magic versus tech could be fun, but that's not what Marvel does. Marvel always puts the protagonist and the antagonist together that have like similar powers, you know, Ant-Man and Yellow Jacket, or, you know, Captain America as a super soldier, Red Skull was a super soldier. That's, you know, Iron Man and Ironmonger. They like to have that match. So for her to go up against a mystic villain doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, unless they're going to give her some mystical connection too because of Wakanda. Or maybe he's not the only villain in the series. You know, like I said, we don't have anybody else's characters, especially Alden Ehrenreich. He could be a bad guy. That could be interesting. So, but yeah, that is the Hood. He's expected to appear in the Ironheart series. which is part of Phase 5. So we should see that sometime in 2024. But let's see. Edward says, if I remember correctly, in the comics, were the Skrulls pretty much pure evil? Mostly, yeah. There was always that one or two that was different. I believe Johnny Storm married a Skrull for a while. Let's see. Edward said, you just mentioned the Black Cat. That's what I'm waiting for. The Black Cat was my first real crush, and I still love the character. You'd think her popularity would see Felicia Hardy somewhere in the MCU. Yeah, but that's a decision for Sony, because she would fall into the Spider-Man stuff. So they would have to agree to it. And I think they have plans on doing something with her specifically. So we'll have to see how that works out. All right, guys, that is going to be the show for today. Tomorrow we'll talk about any other news that comes up, and we'll break down the latest episode of Only Murders in the Building. And I will watch at least the first 2 or 3 episodes of Sandman, and we will talk about that on Thursday. Stick around. It is Tuesday. We've got Minute to Skim It coming up, and then I will be back with Kyle and Jay. I'm assuming Kyle's going to be in it. We're going to talk about the new books in stores this week, including some of the books we'll be talking about tonight are going to be, I've got a list here, Archer and Armstrong Forever, number 4. There's some cool changes in that. Elvira in Horrorland, number 3. Hellboy and the BPRD, Falling Skies. Red Sonja Fairy Tales. And Midnight Management, bootleg number 2. So stick around for that tonight. That'll be at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern, with Kyle and Jay and myself. So stick around. Have a great night. I'll see you all later.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.